Toxic shock syndrome, or TSS. You don't hear about it much anymore, but at one time it had young women frightened that tampons could somehow turn deadly.
In 1936, Denver physician Earl Haas invented the modern-day tampon out of cardboard and compressed cotton. The design caught on quickly, and Haas soon sold his patent to Tampax Incorporated. Within a generation, most menstruating women were using tampons. However, no federal or state health agencies oversaw tampon production in the U.S., and the products were never submitted to any required set of safety tests. In 1979, Procter & Gamble released a tampon that could absorb nearly 20 times its own weight in fluids, seemingly allowing women to leave it in for long periods of time without having to change it. The impact on female genital ecology was immediately obvious. The tampons were capable of absorbing more fluid than most women actually had in their vaginas. As the tampon swelled, expanding to touch the vaginal walls, dryness made the usually mucus-coated areas vulnerable. From the moment superabsorbent tampons became available, there were published accounts of vaginal ulcerations, lesions, and lacerations.
I said, that's it. That's the answer. This is the reason for toxic shock syndrome.
TSS is a rare, life-threatening complication of bacterial infection. The victims were infected with Streptococcus aureus bacteria, which caused high fevers, red rashes over the body, the death and subsequent shedding of skin cells, dangerous drops in blood pressure, vomiting, muscle aches, kidney dysfunction, liver failure, elevated blood clotting and platelet formation, mental confusion, and loss of consciousness. Toxic shock syndrome can be deadly in up to 50% of the cases.
It's not bold. You see the skull and crossbones?
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
Ways that we can acquire or get toxic shock syndrome include the prolonged use of a tampon, meaning that you're leaving it in for more than 4 hours at a time, the use of a diaphragm for a longer period of time that's recommended by your healthcare provider, and also having a contaminated wound, cut, burn, or laceration. Toxic shock syndrome can affect men, women, and children.
Treatment of TSS can involve a number of things. Any foreign materials will be removed, the infection site will be drained, antibiotics will be administered through an IV, dialysis will be performed if necessary, and a stay in the hospital's ICU for monitoring is advised. The FDA and CDC now classify tampons as Class 3 medical devices, legally requiring pre-marketing safety tests. Superabsorbent tampons are now a thing of the past. Most tampon boxes now advise a woman to choose the lowest absorbency necessary for her menstrual flow and to never keep a tampon in for more than 8 hours.
One of the big things we learned in 1980 is absorbency plays a role in toxin production.
Cases of toxic shock decreased suddenly in the 1980s after a tampon brand called Rely was taken off the market. 38 women, though, died from TSS that year. And there's a theory that tampon companies still use synthetic fibers and chlorine compounds instead of pure cotton, providing a very capable host for the bacterium to grow.